Hello everyone, we can start. So thanks to be here today for hearing my talk. I'm François Bouteruche. I work at Microsoft for 1 year now. Before I work at Orange Business Service as a software developer and at United Credit, a startup in the crowdfunding market in Paris, where I was a DevOps engineer, and I helped them to set up their continuous delivery. So today I'm here to talk to you about team services, Java and containers, and what we can do for you if you're running Java application in containers. So before going deeper in the presentation, I need some Azure, some things to run my containers for the demo. So I choose to show you Azure Container Service, our service to help you to run your container. So with Azure Container Service, you can set up easily Kubernetes, DCOS, or Swarm orchestrator. So I will show you. I will create this orchestrator now to use it after in the demo. So we can create this orchestrator very easily. So with Azure CLI command line in Bash, we can create a group of resources in Azure. Okay. So I create a group of resources. Okay. So it's great, I get my group of resources, and now I will create an ACS cluster. So I can ask for help. Okay, I want to create an ACS Azure Container Service cluster running Kubernetes. So I tell him that I want he set up my Azure Container Service in the resource group AC Live. I name my Azure Container Service like this, and I choose my orchestrator. Oh, okay. I tell him, okay, please build me an Azure Container Service with Kubernetes inside. So it will set up a Kubernetes cluster with one master and 3 agents. So now it's started. So I can go to my slide deck. Just to show you is working. Here you can see I'm in the portal, Azure portal, and I see my resource group. AC Live, and he's working, he's deploying everything I need to run a Kubernetes orchestrator. So he's working on it. So just a few words before going deeper in my talk. First of all, I want to recall what Satya Nadella gives us as a mission. He has us to empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more. And to do this, he has completely changed the way Microsoft do the things. So Microsoft now, at the company-wide, is open and a cross-platform company. For example, we run Linux on Azure. More than 1 VM on 2 is running, created is running on Linux. We deliver Office running on iPad. We have Bash running on Windows. As you have seen, I'm just running Bash on Windows to use my Azure CLI command line. And for example, the bot framework is running on Node.js. So this is on a Microsoft company-wide aspect. In the developer division, we have also changed the way we are working. Before, our tools was to develop in C# in C++ for Windows, and now our tools is for developing any application and on any platform, because our developers at Microsoft need this tool since they are developing applications for iPad, for Android, and for Linux. So they need these tools, and we know that the community needs these tools also. So now you have Visual Studio Code, which is an advanced code editor which is completely open source and free, which is running on Linux, Mac, and Windows, for example. We have open source .NET framework, rewriting with .NET Core, which is running on Linux and Mac OS X and on Windows. And we partners with some, for example, with Red Hat to offer .NET support on Linux. So we clearly support .NET on Linux. And in the Visual Studio Team Services specific teams, which I will go deeper on these tools and services. Our mission is to address all developer, all language, and all platforms. And we try also to be open and cross-platform. For example, our build agent, which is a kind of Jenkins slave, if you want. If you are more comfortable with Jenkins, our build agent is written in .NET Core and is open source. So you can go to the GitHub and contribute to our build agent and see how we write it. We have IDE plugin. For example, we have an IDE plugin in Eclipse, and he is open source, and you can contribute to it, and he is written in Java, of course. And we have REST API service hook extensibility to work with other tools like Chief, Puppet, Jenkins, and so on. So last things, I know that Visual Studio can be a bit frightening. Often people say, oh, okay, Visual Studio, but it's an IDE for developing Windows application. No, today Visual Studio is a brand, and of course you have the legacy Visual Studio IDE, but you have also Visual Studio Team Services, which is our HLM tools. And you have also Visual Studio Code, our code editor, which is also used by Google, for example. So Google come on stage at our Connect conference and say, we are using Visual Studio Code. So it's some things that shows that we change the way we do the things. So what are Visual Studio Team Services? And after that, I stop the slide. It's an integrated suite of modular software development tools. In Visual Studio Team Services, we support Git repository at enterprise scale with all the security needed. We have bug tracking and backlog story management feature. We have Agile board, for example. We have everything you need to do continuous integration. We have everything you need to do manual and automatic testing. We have a package management feature, and we have also a release and deployment feature. So we have all these features bundled in Visual Studio Team Services, but the most important part, if you have a preferred tool on one of these features, you can use it and integrate it with Visual Studio Team Services. For example, we work very well with Jenkins. And you can use, for example, on the continuous integration part, you can use Jenkins if you prefer to use Jenkins. And we support the IDE of your choice. So today I've heard about Eclipse. We support Eclipse. We support Eclipse G also. So we have a lot of integration in your IDE. So now I will try to live demo what is Visual Studio Team Services. So basically, Visual Studio Team Services is a SaaS services. So you can use it in the cloud, but you can set up it also on-premise. And on-premise, it's called Team Foundation Server. But basically, it's the same product. Visual Studio Team Services gets a 3-week update, and Team Services get a 3 months update. So here I'm in my portal, and I will create a new project to host my software development. So I will call it OK, C Live. I can choose the source control I want to use. So if I want to use an embedded source control, I can choose between a Git repository or our legacy source control team foundation version control. So here I will use Git. I can choose which kind of process I want to run. For example, okay, I want to do Scrum, and I can select who can see my project. So here Visual Studio Team Services is backed with my corporate Azure Active Directory, so the Azure Active Directory of Microsoft, and I can share it with every employee in Microsoft or just people I want. So I will narrow the access. So and now I have to create my project. So just a few seconds, and I can start to demonstrate you. During this, I've already set up some source code. Just get up the URL. Okay. So my team project is ready, and now I can import some source code. So here I can clone this repository and push my code in it. I can import a repository. So here to go quicker, I will import this repository. I can. It could be a GitHub repo. Okay, so he has started to clone the previous repository and import it in my team project. So it's a pretty cool feature if you want to easily import an existing Git repository. So, okay. It's in it, so it's already in Visual Studio Team Services. So now I can go in my Eclipse here, and here you can see I have my Team Explorer plugin. So I can go and connect to this project. Okay, I have quite a few. See live. Okay, connect to it. Okay. Something real here. Okay. So here I can. Okay. Here I can import repository. No, okay, let's go. Copy clone. So here it tells me, okay, in a HustleLive team project you have a HustleLive Git repository, and here I can clone a Git repository. It tells you, okay, it's here. Next. So it will check out with the Git view, standard Git repository view of team services. Okay, finish. He check out my Git repository. So here. Okay, so my ACS cluster, I will check during he's doing this, just to be sure everything is working fine. Okay, so here, as you can see, he has finished to create my Kubernetes orchestrator. So next, I can use it. Okay, so here I can import working tree, import project. So it will detect that I've got a Maven project in my. Okay. So I can connect to my team services. I can check out my my source code. I can import my Maven. Sorry. and I've got my project here. Okay, so here it's a really standard Maven project with some Docker Compose and some Docker Compose file. Here I will switch on my Okay. I check out my K8 branches, so I can work on the Kubernetes part. So here I've got my YAML file, which define my Kubernetes services. So if you're familiar with, more familiar with Docker Compose, it's quite the same thing, but in a different syntax. So now I've got my project. I've got my source code in Eclipse. I want to set up my continuous integration. So I can go here and go to the build and release part of Visual Studio Team Services. So here I see my code and say, okay, let's go to define a new build definition. So as you can see, I've got the choice between several templates. I've got the choice, for example, with a template with Jenkins to integrate with the Jenkins, but we support also Maven build. So okay, I get this project. So first thing, I tell him where to get the sources. So by default, it takes the sources in the Git repository of team services. So here I set up to take the K8 branch. But if I want, if I prefer, I can work with GitHub. I can work with a remote repo, Git repo. I can work with Subversion also. So, for example, if you work with GitLab, you can integrate with GitLab and check out your source code from GitLab. Okay, so I tell him where to get the source. For Maven, I just here declare my goal. It will look at for the POM, by default, it look at for the POM XML file in my source repository. Just a few tricks, because I know my code and I've got some integration tests in it. So I put the option in the argument line. If I want, I can add some code coverage, for example, Jacoco. We support Jacoco and Cobertura, so I can ask for some code coverage. And I can say, okay, send and queue this build. Just one more thing. I can tell them, okay, I have several agent queue, and I can select in which queue I want to launch the build. So here I select my private agent. So we have some hosted agent in the service. So it's standard build agent with standard development tools. And you can set up your private agent and connect your private agent to VSTS to add on it some specific tools you use. So okay, I set my trigger, continuous integration on the branch, save and queue. Let's go. No agent. Oh yes, it's not private agent here, it's hosted one. Private agent is for the release. Okay, just save it. Okay, fine. So here I've got my build, but in fact I don't have already still create my Docker images. So I will add some Docker task here. So I search for my Docker Okay, Docker Compose. Okay, so here I will ask him to run a build service images. So everything, and here why I can't see my service endpoint? Yes, Docker registry endpoint. Okay, just a minute. So here, as you can see, I must configure a service endpoint to my Docker registry to push in my Docker registry. We have all the service endpoint is managed in this way to avoid to have some login password to some external tools in a config file. So we manage globally the service connection to external tools. So here, yes, this one and the password. Okay. So here I get my registry. So Azure Container Registry is a standard Docker registry hosted in Azure. So if you need to set up a private Docker registry, you can set up it very easily on Azure. Okay, just take it. Okay, so now I have my registry connection here, and that's pretty cool. Now here I will ask him to push my images to my Docker registry connection. He asked me to, okay. Sorry. Just take it this. So it's for adding some specific tag to my registry push. So now I can save and queue again my build. So if I look at here, I have my build definition. So the first build has succeeded. So I can go to my build summary. Okay, please. Okay, here's my build summary. So in my build summary, I see from to what commit is associated. I can see the associated changes. I can see the result of the JUnit test. I can see the code coverage statistic, and I can add some tag to my build registry. And as we can extend here, as you can see, if you want to build your own build status information, you can extend Visual Studio Team Services with HTML5 CSS SDK, and you can build your own build summary widget. It's very, very easy. So here, my build has succeeded, and the second one is running. Okay, pretty cool. So now I will define my release. So we have the build part to build our application, and we have the release part to define the release pipeline. So let's go to define a release pipeline. So I can, as you can see, have some release template. The most to deploy to Azure Service Fabric, but we have also a template to deploy to Kubernetes cluster. So next, and he asked me, okay, where can I get the artifact? So I tell him, okay, get the artifact in my build, in the result of my build, but I can tell him to get the artifact in the result of my Jenkins job also. And I can tell him, okay, it's a continuous deployment, so each time a build succeeds, you create your release. So here, basically, in my release definition, I can define several environments. So the first one, of course, is my dev environment, and here I will add a new Kubernetes connection, which is called a CLive. And I need to get the Kubernetes so just a quick check. Okay, so here I run this command to download my of course, if I miss this. So here I ask him to download my config file for this Kubernetes. Okay, because by default, it asks me for my private key, because by default, when I've set up my orchestrator, I use my SSH key that I've previously set up in my bash. So he asked me for it. So now I get my kube/config. Okay, I get my config file. Pretty cool. And I need my, okay, let's go here. I need the URL of my master agent, my master. So here it is. Okay. Okay. So as you can see, my VSTS is not directly connected to my Azure subscription. This is two separate services, and I need to authorize Visual Studio Team Services, because you can use Visual Studio Team Services with other data center, other cloud provider. So, okay, it's two Microsoft services, but you can use them separately. Okay. Hey. Do the trick. Why can't you see my? Okay. Okay. So just a demo effect. So let's go in something I've prepared before to avoid this kind of problem. So here you can see my my previously set up release definition. And in this release definition, I've got two specific deployments. So here, I get my registry and images, and then I deploy it to my Kubernetes cluster. For this service is a MySQL database, so it's a MySQL Docker container that I deploy to Kubernetes, and here it is a web application, which is my Java application that you can see in Eclipse. So in a Docker container also. So here, maybe this time, no, okay. So here I can create a release and ask him, okay, please deploy this application, and here I can see, okay, in my log I can see what it's doing. So here get my agent, he downloads the artifact, he applies task to the Kubernetes orchestrator, and is deploying my first container, and then he runs the second part of the release pipeline and is deploying to my Kubernetes cluster. So here it is set up, and here is my public IP for my deployed cluster. So if I go there, okay, let's remove, just to show you that it's live. Okay, I go back to the other access cluster. Okay, so it's really Kubernetes. So if I use this, for example, and ask him, okay, give me deployments. So he tells me, okay, you have these two things in, okay, give me the pods. So you can see the pods here, which is running, and give me the service. So here I have my public IP that I use in the browser to connect to my web application. So to sum up, as you can see, we have a lot of tools to help you to go quickly, because in 35 minutes I've set up a Kubernetes cluster in Azure. I've set up a build definition. I nearly set up a release pipeline. If my authorization have worked, it would be better. But so you can go very, very quick to set up a complete continuous delivery pipeline. And today, if someone tells you, "Oh, it's too complicated, it's too hard to set up a continuous delivery pipeline," you can tell me, "No, it's because we don't have the right tools, we don't have the right resources." If we can, with tools such as Jenkins, such as Chef, Puppet, Visual Studio Team Services, we can set up continuous delivery pipeline very quickly. And if somebody tells you it's very hard, you can tell, no, it's not hard. We don't have the right tools. We don't have the right resources. So we have maybe a few minutes for question. Yeah.
Do you have some support for pipeline as code?
Not at the moment. We are working on it because it's a huge ask from our customer. So the product group tells me at the end of this year. We have a user voice, visualstudio.uservoice.com, And the Visual Studio Team Services group is one of the most implicated product group in Microsoft on user voice. So you can ask for a new feature, and they really look at it. Maybe other question?
Yeah, I do have one. I mean, it's very nice, and it's clear that you guys are trying to come up with new ideas and approaches. But I just really would like to understand why this configuration you guide us through is better than having a GitHub repository with Travis and the Docker. So I thought I see a lot of dialogues, you know, configuration, my ID, password again, and it seems to be really difficult to follow.
First of all, we don't have of course we compete with GitLab and others, but our value is not on a specific feature. Our value is on the overall vision, because when you use Visual Studio Team Services, I don't show you that, but when you are on the Agile dashboard, you can take a card and say, okay, create a Git branch from the card, and you have a direct link between your branch and the card. So if a developer commits in this branch, automatically its commit is associated with the Agile card. So our value is on the overall vision. Of course, if you take some tools on a specific feature, we are not the best of breed tools. And we know it. It's not our choice. Our choice is to give you a hub to manage your project. And this is why we integrate with Jenkins. This is why we integrate with GitHub. A lot of our open source project is hosted on GitHub, because GitHub is the de facto standard.
That's clear, and don't get me wrong, it's cool. I just don't.
And on the configuration, we are working on the configuration in pipeline in the code. We are working on it.
You're confused about config as code, and you would think that there's too many UI. And
Exactly. I mean, the VS Code approach is great. I'm using VS Code on a daily basis, and you can configure as a
yes.
That's the new mainstream, I would say.
And for example, when I set up my ACS cluster, I don't use UI. You have a command line for VSTS, which is called TFS CLI, which is available on GitHub. So you can set up some part of this stuff by command line, and we are working on it. So it's the same answer. We know that we must do some work on this part.
Great, thanks.
Maybe other question? Okay. So don't hesitate to talk with me.